With 2016 marking the 30th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda, I thought it would be fitting to find out what people's favourite games are in this much beloved series. So I took to the Super SONM forums and ran a poll asking what their top 5 Zelda games are, with top spot getting 5 points and 5th spot getting the 1 point. There were a lot of votes, so thank you to everyone who voted and said their piece. Just don't blame me for the final list, alright? Now in your own words, here are the top 10 Legend of Zelda games of all time. Number 10, Phantom Hourglass. Man, I love the controls in this game and Spirit Tracks, it all worked perfectly. I actually really liked the Temple of the Ocean King, it really sold the game for me. It was always tense, that time limit scared the shit out of me. Being put under pressure like that and having to solve puzzles was great. It combined puzzles with stealth and then threw a time limit on the top. I thought it worked well. I just enjoyed this game more than Spirit Tracks, it's fun and not too complex, a personal highlight of the DS library. Number 9, Link's Awakening. The world design is great, the dungeons are fun, and the overall plot is more interesting than your basic Ganon stole the princess lol that everything else descends to. Link's Awakening is one of the most unique Zelda games and it's all the better for it. The game is both difficult and well designed. The dungeons are some of the best in the series and offer a genuine challenge. The story is unique and memorable, centered around the mystery of the island the game is set on, and culminating in a genuinely emotional ending that somehow combines both sadness and loss with victory and joy. All of this comes together to make a near perfect game. Number 8, Minish Cap. A severely overlooked Zelda adventure that contains as much creativity and charm as even the best games in the series. The idea of shrinking down in size allowed for settings and concepts that are unlike any other Zelda game, particularly with how mundane enemies and objects are big obstacles when you're shrunken down, especially the first boss. This game is perfectly suited to beginners of the series, as I was. It's a bit short with only 6 dungeons, but it has one of the best soundtracks in this series and builds up to a challenging final encounter with Vati. Capcom proved that it's not just Nintendo who can make a Zelda game. Minish Cap might be pint-sized, but it's overwhelmingly charming from start to finish. A pure joy to play. Number 7, A Link to the Past. There is no denying how good it is, especially in terms of level design. The game world is small, but the sense of adventure is never really diminished, especially when you consider the Dark World. I loved how each dungeon was quite large, but held its theme all the way through. I love the transformation to the Dark World. I love the music, the weapons, the graphical style and gameplay. Even if I look beyond the nostalgia, I can't deny that this is an amazing game. Number 6, A Link Between Worlds. Like many people, when I saw this at E3 I was so about it. It wasn't until the game came out that it showed it was a culmination of years of top-down Zelda experience. The game was so polished and everything was a joy to play. Everything was spot on for a 2D game, the dungeons and soundtrack were great. It's really short and easy, but the dungeon design in this game is top notch, as is the whole play in any order aspect. Number 5, Skyward Sword. A perfect blend of old and new, Skyward Sword takes the classic Zelda formula and mixes it with a modern action adventure, leading to a tighter, more linear and story-focused game that simultaneously refreshes the series, while reminding you of everything that makes Zelda great. The characters are full of personality and, like the Wind Waker, have plenty of uniqueness, with a great soundtrack that doesn't get given enough credit for. Also the only game in this series where there seems to be an actual romance between Link and Zelda. The motion controls felt incredibly intuitive, that opened the door to newer ways to get through dungeons with unique weapons. Girahim is probably my favourite villain in the franchise next to Ganon. Number 4, Twilight Princess. The game may take a little while to get going, but once it does, it unfolds in what I think is the greatest Zelda game ever. Dungeons are some of the best in the franchise, from the iconic Goron Mines Temple to the monkey-obsessed Forest Temple. The 30+ hour story contains some of the best characters in the franchise and a brilliant villain in Zant. It holds a similar structure and gameplay to Ocarina of Time, which I don't consider a bad thing, and it pulls it off magnificently. I know I should keep comparisons off this, but for the record, I have absolutely no clue how people rate Skyward Sword higher than this. The quest to restore Hyrule from the Twilight Realm felt really captivating. Befriending Midna, who you don't see eye to eye with initially, but by the end, your relationship develops as Link would find out more about her tragic background, making her my favourite Zelda sidekick. It's basically Ocarina of Time 2, but in the best way possible. It feels like an expansion to what Ocarina started. A good example of this is the horse riding. Epona is available over a much wider area in this game, which makes it really feel like an adventure to me. I don't think I've ever been excited for a game as much as I was for Twilight Princess. Ever since that first reveal at E3 I was hooked, and thankfully, for me at least, it didn't disappoint. Granted the start was a little slow, but I thought it helped introduce all the extra characters you'd be helping down the line, and once it got going, it was a joy to play. Number 3, Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask is a deeply unsettling game, and as a child and adult they still do the same. Right from the start we see Link jumping off the tree stumps, and as we see him jump he does little flips, showing he has progressed as an adventurer. The game sort of gives me chills thinking about it now. It was just so weird and unearthly. I much prefer the darker tone of things, the shift in focus to the people and the world rather than the core plot. I'm reading up on things such as Ikana Tower of Babel theories is almost certainly the reason I'm as into Dark Souls and that form of storytelling as I am. I think playing Majora's Mask as a child was one of the first times I remember being aware of my own mortality and the inevitability of my own death, which made me scared to sleep for ages. The final level on the moon with those skipping children wearing masks may be one of the most surreal and amazing experiences I've ever had playing a game. The whole thing is just wondrous, and whilst every Zelda game has something special to me, it's Majora's Mask which is my favourite. One of the most interesting and well developed worlds you can find in any video game. I love the way it lets you explore its themes by yourself, and there really is a lot to think about if you look deep enough. The use of transforming masks was brilliant and really helped to diversify the experience. More than anything though, I think what I like so much about Majora's Mask is that it was so unexpected, especially coming off the back of Ocarina of Time. Ocarina was kind of the big blockbuster of the franchise of the time, whereas Majora's Mask felt like the cult classic. Number 2, Ocarina of Time. It's widely considered the best game ever made for very good reason. It's harder to find a more moving and evocative game than Ocarina of Time, an experience that will stay with you forever. Growing up was a twist, going back in time was better. Seeing friends age and move on and how Ganon has taken over Hyrule. The dungeons are immersive, it has a killer soundtrack, and the Ocarina melodies are something special. I love everything about this game. The level design still remains good to this day, the music is classic, and overall the game is still wonderfully cinematic and memorable. Even if the overworld is small by today's standards, it still carries that spirit of adventure. I remember seeing a friend play this for the first time and being blown away when he opened his inventory menu. So many items and so many collectibles as you just flick through the menu. To me, who only had a SNES at that point with no RPGs or the original Zelda, this was truly an eye-opener to the wonder of games. Ocarina is probably my most played Zelda game. I've completed it a lot of times over the various platforms it's been released on and still love it every single time I play it. To me, Ocarina of Time is one of the few games I have no problem in describing as timeless. And number 1, The Wind Waker. To start with, the graphical style they went for was just amazing. I loved the sailing to traverse the overworld. For the first time I was in a seamless world where I could go in any direction. I still remember seeing Dragon Roost Island's volcano looming on the horizon, and then when getting ready to disembark your boat, the amazing music kicks in, just making the experience even more memorable. Another great game with a ton of charm and exploration. Wind Waker is bursting with content and side missions. I love the overworld for feeling like one cohesive, genuinely interconnected world, and the simple sense of exploration and discovery that charting unknown areas of land and sea gives you. No other Zelda game has given me that sensation of feeling like a pioneer as much as Wind Waker did. Wind Waker contains my favourite scene in the Zelda series, which is when Link goes to the sunken Hyrule Castle for the first time. The atmosphere of entering the ruins of the castle, with the soldiers frozen in time, like something out of Pompeii, is amazing. Wind Waker does everything to near perfection for me. The presentation holds up phenomenally well even 13 years later. Colourful and memorable characters that will stick with you in the most expansive world of any Zelda game, which gave the player that feeling of adventure. My favourite by a long shot. Fantastic items, setting, art style and music. It all melds wonderfully together. Every island, however small, serves some purpose. Literally perfect, no complaints whatsoever, and one of my favourite games of all time. Graphics, soundtrack, dungeon and characters are all spot on. The dungeons are excellent, the combat is the best of any 3D Zelda, and places like Windfall and Dragon Roost are some of my favourite areas in the Zelda universe. I love sneaking around Forsaken Fortress feeling helpless. I love the music notes that play when you strike enemies. I love the huge overworld. I love the expression on Link's face. I love Tetra's feistiness. I love how you can pick up enemies' weapons and use them. I love the utterly fabulous musical score. I just love it. Well, thank you for watching, and thank you to the people who took part in this video. If you're in the mood for more Zelda, then you can check out another top 10 I did about the best selling games in the series, which has gone up at the same time as this video, but on Project Falcon Punch. I've also started another series on my channel called Thoughts On, where I just talk about random games with a friend. And hey look, it's another Zelda game, surprise!